On this episode of Let's Talk Cincy, finding solutions for homeowners facing financial crisis with their mortgage.
Every few years, there's something occurs with the economy and it starts to impact mortgage health. And this time it's the pandemic.
Plus, meet this year's honorees of Cincinnati's Men of Honor and providing a voice of hope in communities hurt by violence.
There's a lot of great stuff going on in our city with these kids, cheerleading, so I think about that, and that's what keeps me going.
From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller, and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. First up today, experts say home foreclosure risks are on the rise. In fact, a report by Harvard University says the problem, at least in part, is the result of widespread income losses during the pandemic. The federal government has created a program that is designed to help folks avoid foreclosure. It's a generous program that could be a lifeline for many people. With me now to talk about home ownership, the risk of foreclosures, and much more. First, Rick Williams, who is the president and CEO of the Home Ownership Center, and also Penny Martin, the director of public affairs with the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. First of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about this, Rick. This is something that you've been involved in, I know, for many years. Just talk about where people are in terms of their the stability of home ownership right now.
Well, every few years, there's something occurs with the economy and it starts to impact mortgage health. And this time it's the pandemic. And to address that, thankfully, the federal government has allocated funds to support homeowners during this period. And it's allocated through the states. And it's an opportunity to address delinquent payments.
How far behind would you have to be to?
There's no parameters for the length of time. It's more there's a maximum of what you can receive, but it's a pretty healthy $25,000.
Penny,
Yes.
Rick says these are federal dollars.
Yes.
Allocated through the state, is that correct?
That's correct. So the U.S. Treasury provided the state of Ohio $280 million through their homeowner assistance, the Homeowner Assistance Fund, and the Ohio Housing Finance Agency is the state agency to get this money out to Ohioans in need.
Your number was bigger than his, so I'll scratch out the 25,000 and start thinking $280 million.
$280 million.
Just for Ohio.
Just for Ohio, and we've been running the program for about a year now. And the program will run until 2025, September of 2025, or until the program funds run out. But we are seeing the need out there right now for this assistance. And I'm just going to plug it right now. The website is savethedream.ohiohome.org. And you can go online and complete an application for the mortgage assistance right online.
Let's talk about requirements.
Mm-hmm.
What, in addition to all of the paperwork, what would I be required to have in terms of income issues and things of that nature?
There has to be a connection to the impact of the pandemic to access the funds. That does not have to be direct. So it doesn't have to be that you as a homeowner was at one point sick with COVID. The governor shut down the state a couple of years ago, so we were all impacted in that way. And so that connection has to be there, but that is not as daunting a requirement as it may seem. The other thing to keep in mind is it's an online application, but we have found that some homeowners can struggle with the language. And we intervene. We sort of start with the homeowners first so that we can explain what that question is. They can then answer it correctly. That is really important because there are a couple of stages before you get to your application being analyzed. And at any point, you could eliminate yourself from eligibility just by misunderstanding a question.
Income,
So
I'm sorry.
with the program, you have to have your primary residence be in Ohio. So meaning you have to be a homeowner, primary residence in Ohio. You need to have, as Rick said, show a financial impact from the pandemic, going back to January of 2020. So there is flexibility there. And then you do have to meet the income requirements for the program. Now I will say the income requirements for this program are very, the income eligibility is very not lenient. Generous, I would say.
Yeah.
For a family of 4, you have to have an annual income of up to $147,000. Now that for a program like this is very generous, but when we established the program, we knew the pandemic impacted so many people across the state. So when we were looking to set up the program, we wanted to have income limits that allowed us to help as many Ohioans as possible.
Well, thank you very much. We'll be back in a moment. We're going to continue our discussion about housing and the risk of foreclosures and things of that nature. Rick Williams, who is the president and CEO of the Home Ownership Center, and joining us now is Glenn Meadows. He is the senior vice president, head of mortgage loan servicing with Fifth Third Bank. And thanks for joining us. Glenn, you heard the earlier discussion. Pick up how Fifth Third ties into helping people keep their homes, basically.
It does, and at Fifth Third, one of the things we pride ourselves on is making sure we're keeping the customers at the center of everything we do, which in this discussion involves the communities in which we serve as well. And one of the largest challenges we have is customers who are experiencing a financial hardship don't necessarily contact the lenders and talk to us about what's going on. In most cases, there's opportunities for us to help or offer information that could help put them at ease.
I should have asked you this earlier. The Home Ownership Center, this isn't, a new project. You've been around for a long time. You've gone through the highs of the housing market and then the dip in around 2008. So just how long has the center been around?
We celebrate our 50th year this year. So thanks for the plug. But this is the first time the housing market has been so impacted by something that's a virus. Typically, there's some economic something that happens that is more about financing, but this is a virus that has caused a pandemic which has impacted the economy in a way that is very unique. And it really makes those at risk and those with hardship victims of something that they could not control.
If they want to stay in the property, obviously, and are having a hardship, again, you mentioned it earlier around what are banks doing to help? Yes, we do make phone calls to customers, we do send letters, but within that information, it's good information that's going to help you get out from under the situation that you're in, or at least we're going to help you get there. And if I could sum it up into one word, it would be, we really want to help. We really want to help our customers and our communities maintain home ownership.
Again, going back to the basics, the eligibility, a family of 4, about $140,000, and then a maximum of $25,000 for each applicant if approved.
That is correct. And then there are additional funds available for utilities and taxes.
Oh.
So it's a very, very generous program that's intended to set you straight based on the impact of a health crisis.
Taxes and liens?
Taxes and utilities.
Okay, all right.
So if you're behind in utilities, all of those things, they come together when you have financial hardship. And so there are funds available for that as well. And the important thing is with the eligibility, this is another thing that we help people understand before they get into the application. Income in this situation is household, not the breadwinner.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we'll be back in a moment.
Recognizing Black excellence, we'll introduce you to the 2022 Men of Honor honorees when Let's Talk Cincy returns.
Welcome back, everyone. Since 2010, a program called Men of Honor, a salute to African American men, has taken place to recognize leaders who are part of a bold legacy making a difference in Greater Cincinnati. This year's honorees are Paul Booth, Division Manager, Office of Human Relations for the City of Cincinnati; Chuck Session, retired Vice President, Government Affairs for Duke Energy; Tony Mathis, the President and CEO, GE Military Engines and Systems; Henry Brown, retired Director, Worldwide Engineering, and now the founder of Webb Ventures; and Damon Jones, Chief Communications Officer, the Procter & Gamble Company. The annual Black Tie Gala has become one of Cincinnati's most anticipated events. The program is organized by the Abercrombie Group, and since its inception, organizers say it provides a unique opportunity for the community to celebrate the accomplishments of African American men who have succeeded against all odds and achieved greatness. I talked with this year's honorees about what it means to receive this award, and I asked each person to share something in their life that has inspired them to make a difference.
Curtis, first of all, I'm exceptionally humbled and grateful for the opportunity to share my story. And I think more importantly, to help others in the community, young men and young women, understand that anything is possible through hard work, through your faith, through managing relationships, and the opportunity to share that with other young men and women so that they have another opportunity or a better opportunity and don't have to overcome some of the obstacles that I did as a young man coming up means all the world to me.
I think there are two thoughts that come to mind. First is just humbled. When you look at the group of men that have come before me, you know, you've got political leaders, you've got religious leaders, my pastor, people who've made strides in a professional world. It makes you appreciative of the wealth of Black male excellence that we have in the city, and I'm humbled to be included in that. My first reaction is I didn't think I had reached that stage yet, but I looked in the mirror, there's a little bit of gray hair, so I guess it's about time. But the second thought that come to my mind, you know, when I got the call was just what a responsibility it was, because I think back to those that came before me and said, wow, those were the men that I looked up to for how they, you know, created some room for me to grow. And so it gave me a renewed sense of responsibility for what I need to do for the next generation.
Very significant. Signal honor to be joining the ranks of other African American men who have done so much and who have contributed so much to our city, our country, and our world for that matter. So it's a great honor, something that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
Well, it's kind of a validation, I guess, of all the things I've quietly been trying to do. Obviously, somebody's been watching, and the things I've done must have had an impact beyond what I know and appreciate. So for me, it's a validation of that. And it's kind of a reward, I guess, for having been diligent in what I've been doing.
My mother and father, they made sacrifices daily so that my sisters and I could have better opportunities. And my mother and father were married when my mother was a sophomore in college. And so she had 4 children, and when the youngest went to kindergarten, she went back to school, got her undergrad, got her master's, and began teaching. My father worked 2 jobs to ensure that we had the things that we needed and a few of the things that we wanted. And so we moved when I was 12 years old. And in our local community, there were 2 African American families. And my father could have gotten a loan, a mortgage, in a community 15 miles south but he paid a percentage point higher on that mortgage for the new home because he said, I want to make sure that when you kids get to that age, they will have had experience of an African American being true to their word, paying their mortgage, and as such, you won't have to have the struggles that your mother and I had.
You know, when people think about P&G, most people think about, you know, products that are in your medicine cabinet or underneath your counter. But what many people don't realize is we're one of the world's largest advertisers, which means we have a unique opportunity to shape how people see themselves and see each other through the world of advertising. So we've taken very seriously our responsibility to make sure that we're portraying people in accurate and holistic ways. So what that means for Black men is making sure that we don't stereotype, that we show the full variety of Black excellence, that we show Black single men, Black fathers, Black athletes, Black newscasters, Black athletes, all of those things, show them being excellent at what they do, but also excellent in the everyday that they have with their families. And those are images that Black men haven't seen always of themselves. So that's one of the pieces of work that I'm especially proud of, that I've had a hand in doing that through advertising, but also opening up opportunities for filmmakers of color to tell their own stories. Because when we can widen the lens to the periphery of stories that we see, we can tell many more stories, our own stories, on our terms.
You've heard me say this before, was meeting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in person. He was in Cincinnati for an event at the church that my late father, Dr. L.V. Booth, pastored. He came to our home, and even though I was only 10, there was something about that chance meeting that changed my life and has had a rippling effect, and it really caused me to get involved deeply in the civil rights movement and in the human rights movement and doing for others. So that was one. And then two is just working side by side by my father, who was not only a great father, he was a statesman, he was a preacher, he was a leader here in Cincinnati, but he was a national leader. And just having him as my example and my guide was life-changing, and is still with me today, and it's something that I try to pass on to our sons, Paul and Martin.
Well, I had an opportunity as a very young manager at Procter to meet Price Combs when he was writing his book, or he had just written his book, Black Rage. And a couple of us dared to use our budgets to go out and visit with him and to actually spend time with him and how he thought about Black Rage and managing it, as well as a proper way to express it, because we all had it. I was young enough then that my rage hadn't gotten me into trouble. And so spending time with him helped me kind of smooth off the edges and really get strategic about it. The second one, it wasn't much longer after that. I had the opportunity to spend time with Maynard Jackson when he was doing what he was doing in Atlanta. And spending time with him and how he thought about things and the way he carried himself, I kind of emulated some of that. I went back and worked with and for senior management at Procter & Gamble, and I think it made a difference of how I presented myself and cleared the path for upward mobility. And it's only by moving up that you're really able to have the maximum impact for the maximum number of people.
Great stories, huh? We didn't get a chance to interview Tony Mathis, but let me tell you a little bit about him. He is the president and chief executive officer of GE Military Engines and Systems, where he leads a $4 billion business with 3,000 employees who are focused on developing and manufacturing advanced and next-generation engines and systems for military air, combat, tanker, helicopter, and marine applications. Congratulations to all the honorees.
Just ahead, addressing the violence in Greater Cincinnati. The positive programs steering teens in the right direction. Let's Talk Cincy returns in just a moment.
And finally today, it is very clear that gun violence is a huge problem here in Greater Cincinnati, highlighted by recent shootings, with the youngest victim being only 3 years old. There are no easy answers to ending, or at the very least, reducing the chaos in our streets. However, we shouldn't lose sight that there are positive efforts happening in our community, trying to push our young people in the right direction.
It's a lot of good stuff going on as well. You know, I think about the response went to the other night where I had a youth football coach was shot. And I want to send the condolences out to the family, to all the people that we have lost over the years, and for this last week that we had some of these homicides. But there's so many kids out here playing football and soccer. There's a lot of great stuff going on in our city with these kids, cheerleading, you know, so I think about that, and that's what keeps me going, that we have to keep spreading that love throughout our community, and just trust and believe in love, that we have to continue to do that and love each other. We have to continue to wrap our arms around these families that's losing these loved ones to this gun violence, and let them know that the city and there's other people out there fighting this good fight to try to curb some of this gun violence. If we could just stop somebody from getting shot and killed for just that couple hours, and get their minds up off of these guns, get their minds up out this gutter, that is peace and love in the community and people care about you, that's what we want to be able to do. Then we could work from there. So all our tournaments, whatever we do is always a message with the ride for peace. So whatever that we do, it's a message in whatever we do, that we have to continue to take care of each other. Our Youth Kings and Queens is the organization we deal with youth from like 9 years old and up. A lot of our kids are getting caught up in chasing that illusion. You know, don't really understand the rights and wrongs of when you decide you want to pick that pistol up. So we want to show them the difference, show them the consequences of what this pistol could happen to you. So a lot of these kids have been in trouble before. We want to help them. They made a bad choice, and we understand that. But let's turn this thing around. We're going to surround you with some positive people, show you some positive things in the community, in our city that's going on. We stand on the back of some mighty powerful people in the city that did a lot of good work for us to be able to do a lot of things that we're able to do today. So we want to spread that message to them, let them know you could be just like that person that came from some of these neighborhoods. Just stay in the game, stay in the fight. We need to understand that by fooling with that gun, what it could cost you. And we just have to be real about that. We have to educate them to that. You know, we can't candy coat that. So we ask our parents to teach your kids about, do not touch these guns. It might be shiny, it might look real sleek, but that thing could cost you a bad choice in your life. You know what I mean? So we have to stay away from that. That gun is hot. You know what I mean? If you see that gun laying on the ground over there, that don't mean for you to run and go play with it. You know, talk to somebody, tell somebody the gun is over there.
You know, there are many great organizations here in Greater Cincinnati looking for mentors, volunteers, and donations. It's a great way to give back to our community. Well, that does it for now. I'm Curtis Fuller. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time for another edition of Let's Talk Cincy.